All right. Well, welcome everybody to Woodland. Thank you for hosting us. Will everybody please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Director Joyner, will you lead us, please?
Absolutely. Ready?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, again, welcome everybody, and I want to thank everyone for coming out. I know sometimes traveling to different locations can be a challenge, so just want to thank all the board members for taking the time to come visit our different jurisdictions. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Lynette for some housekeeping items.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for being here. Just before we get started, a couple of announcements before I take roll. Your microphone, for those of us sitting along this side of the table with me, our microphones will be on for the duration of the meeting. You don't need to push a button. We're just having some technical difficulties. But for the rest of you, if you'd like to speak, please push the button and your microphone will light green and then you'll be amplified. Thank you. I'll go ahead and take roll if you can indicate if you're here, if you're present. Director Flores for Baines. Present. Bradford. Here. Branscombe. Yes. Bullahan. Here. McCulley for Burris. Here. Chapman. Here. Desmond absent. Dowden Calvillo. Present. Frost. Here. Gallardo. Here. Gog. Yes. Early for Guerrero. Or Guerrero. Thank you. Thank you. Harris. Here. Howdeshelt. Here. Jennings. Here. Joyner. Here. Gore for Jones. Here. Kennedy. Here. Nisley. Absent Kozlowski. Here. Lauren. Here. Papanow for Lozano. Here. Sander. Here. Schaefer. Here. Teeter. Here. Thomas. Here. Guerra for Ving. Here. Vega. Here. Villegas. Here. Vice Chair Soon. Absent Chair Saragosa.
Here.
And ex officio member Tacker for Aceves. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Lynette. And I want to thank our alternates for coming out. I know we've made it an intention this year, especially when we're doing the visits, to get as full complement of our board as possible. So I want to thank all of familiar faces of our alternates as well for being here this morning. Okay, we'll move on to the public communications portion of this meeting. This is a time for anyone who wishes to address the board on an item that does not appear on the agenda or anywhere else on the agenda. And I believe we have one comment from Mr. Ossie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Doug Ossie, 4013 Park Road, Sacramento. First of all, welcome to my museum. The Heydrichs built this when I was in office, and it remains a wonderful spot. I'm glad to see you all here. I'm going to make a couple points here for your consideration. I could not find direct references on the agenda to these points, so I took the opportunity to speak in public comment. First of all, I want to reiterate, as I have at some of your committee meetings, that not all points of data, not all pieces of data are equally valuable. And I hope you keep that in mind. Some have more value than others. As Director Corliss, James, how do I refer to your position?
James.
Okay. James and I had lunch the other day. It was very, very pleasant. A couple things we discussed. I expressed to James my skepticism about the assumptions on infill. He shared his view. I remain skeptical. I look forward to our further discussions on that. We also talked about a definition of infill, and I think I understand James's definition better than I did before, but I'd like to get more clarity from an institutional basis as to how infill is defined within the SACOG deliberations. And finally, methodology by which new growth areas are being analyzed, in my opinion, as it relates to greenhouse gases and vehicles miles traveled, works against bringing to market fully completed neighborhoods, the impact of which is far below what the standard is today. In other words, when you bifurcate the new growth areas in the analysis, as opposed to comparing it to total build-out analysis, you end up having a disproportionately negative result, because you're not looking at the entire picture. You're looking at an assortment of pixels rather than the entire completed view. So I would hope that SACOG would factor that into their analysis. I'd be happy to take any questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rossi. Have any other public comments?
There's no other public communications.
All right. Thank you, Lynette. All right. We're going to move on to our presentation from our host. So again, want to thank Yolo County and Woodland. And so I'm going to hand it over to Directors Vegas and Vega.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to first of all say thank you to the city, the staff of Woodland for hosting this morning. Another round of applause, I think, is in order for the great tour we had this morning. So I know city staff and the electeds have a presentation about 10 minutes in length. I was going to take about 2 minutes just simply to kind of set the stage. I know SACOG has been doing sort of the tours to sort of let folks kind of touch, see and feel different parts of our community. So as we come together to talk about things that we're working together on, that we have a better sense of our respective communities. So I just wanted to give you kind of a 2 minutes historical perspective, a little bit on Yolo County, because this is the first time that SACOG tour has landed in Yolo and Woodland specifically. So for those who probably know, this will be a little bit of a repetition, but for those who don't, Yolo County was actually part of the original 27 counties as part of the establishment of California in 1850. So we are part of that original set of counties. Originally, Yolo County was not Yolo, it was Yola. It was called Yola. It was a Patwin name, for a Native American name given by the Patwin Indians way back when. For those who did not know, Woodland, believe it or not, was not the original county seat in Yolo County. The original seat for Yolo County, how many of you know where it was? West Sacramento. It was in West Sacramento. It was actually called, it was in West Sacramento, and it was called the town of Washington, which is now Bright and Broderick, that neighborhood. And you can imagine in 1850 what that looked like, because of the thriving commerce, the sort of the energy at the confluence of the two rivers, and all that was happening there at the, before the turn of the century. The county seat was there originally. It moved around Yolo County. It came back to the town of Washington in 1861. And those of you who know your history around flooding, and many of you do, the massive flood that occurred in 1861 in Sacramento, where some reports are that up to 10 feet of water rose in a 24-hour period. Flooding was a challenge, and consequently they moved the county seat again. Bounced around in Yolo County, but ended up back in Woodland for good. In 1905, UC Berkeley had an extension program, a campus extension that landed in Yolo County near the turn of the century, predominantly focused on agriculture. It was an extension of UC Berkeley. We now know it as UC Davis. It was established as a university system shortly after the turn of the century, continued to be focused on agriculture, and much of what you heard about today continues to be sort of the sustainable efforts that we have undertaken. So currently the population in Yolo County, for those who don't know, it's a little over 200,000 people, but 80% of those people live in the incorporated cities of Woodland, West Sac, Winters, and Davis. So 80% of our population are in the incorporated areas. Outside of the incorporated area, we have 450,000 acres of current active agricultural lands, some of which you drove through today. We maintain 750 miles of roadways and 147 bridges in Yolo County. Some of which you heard today as well. The top commodities that we have here in Yolo County include tomatoes, grapes, almonds, hay, alfalfa, pistachios, and a whole range of others. So just to give you a little flavor for those who don't know about Yolo County. So with that, I will turn it over to my colleague who is ready to present on the status of Woodland. Thank you very much. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. Buenos dias. If anybody's looking for lunch plans, I am very hungry, as I was sharing with my colleagues, so there's a lot of great places to go eat in Woodland, so come see me. I'm Mayra Vega, proud council member of the city of Woodland. I'm so happy that you all are here in my beloved city. I am going to tell you a little bit. Supervisor Vega stole my history lesson, so... So on behalf of my colleagues and Mayor Tania Garcia Cadena, who was here with us on the tour, I'd like to welcome you all. We have Councilmember Stollard here, who is my friend and mentor, and I'm very happy that he's here with us. So I have been on the City Council, it's hard to believe, for 4 years. So I was elected in 2020. Professionally, I'm in healthcare, and when the pandemic happened, I was really inspired to step up and do something to serve my community, to ensure that as this catastrophic event was happening in our communities, that the voices of working families, families that are struggling to raise children, were heard, and I was very pleased and blessed that the voters agreed to have me, and I've thoroughly enjoyed my journey. So as Supervisor Barajas talked about, that Woodland was the county seat, was declared the county seat, incorporated in 1871. We recently celebrated, and postponed because of COVID, our 150th year of incorporation. We got to see the rich agricultural history on our tour. I hope you all enjoyed it. Our heritage is deeply rooted in ag. So this is a fun fact. In late 1880s, Woodland was said to have more millionaires per capita than any other city in America. Settlers came looking to get rich, planning for gold, found their skills of growing food to be more profitable. Today, Woodland is a full-service city. We have 64,000 residents, and we provide a full range of services, including fire, police, water, sewer, and operate our own library that is soon to celebrate 150, or this year, celebrating 150th year since being established. We have an amazing library, so we have wonderful services and programs that are doing a phenomenal job at outreach to all our communities, our diverse communities in their own language. So I'm very proud of our programs. And those are some of the highlights. We've had some challenges, as you all might imagine. The city of Woodland in 2010 was on the verge of bankruptcy due to poor fiscal management and lack of strategic land use and economic development. Just to highlight some of these challenges: failing water system, crumbling infrastructure due to years of neglect, industrial vacancy rate of over 25%, and our historic Main Street, as well as the once thriving County Fair Mall, were largely boarded up. Little to no new housing starts, and a financing plan for a primary new growth area that yielded the highest permits fees of any other project in the region. So let me see. Oh, I think I went over. All right. So there's a lot of the challenges that were overcome really because of strong council leadership, right? So my colleague and Councilmember Stollard has been at the helm and has contributed to a lot of the success, along with the former council members. So strong leadership. We have, over the past decade, have become a really thriving community, as you all got to see. We are celebrating some amazing wins to the benefit of our residents. So now, just sharing, I'm going to show off now some of our accolades. So we have 30% general fund reserves, in large part due to our community supporting support for combined 3/4-cent sales tax. So we have an EPA award-winning resilient water system, 2.4 billion gallons stored, and a recycled water system. I've learned a lot about Purple Pipe since my service on council. $100 million invested in road improvements, completed streets. We have a lot more work to do, but we have been chipping away to invest. And our industrial vacancy, I'm always amazed at this, 0.2%. So significant improvement there. In our downtown, you got to see a little bit about it. It's thriving. We have 15 restaurants, variety of food. Please come and visit, stay for lunch, an 11-screen multiplex, new loft, townhomes, and shout out to Councilmember Stollard for his vision and the investment he has personally made in bringing new living units downtown. And the new growth area, Spring Lake, so you all, that's my districts. We have 5 districts in Woodland, the southeast side of town. We are going to be celebrating putting a bow on that development with all of the parks being completed. Our community center bonds paid off will be paid off in a year. We have a really beautiful community center. We're a destination. We have a sports park that folks know from across the Northern California and Woodland because of our beautiful sports park. And we have a community center we're proud of. And our city council. I mean, I'm a Mexican immigrant. I immigrated with my family from Michoacan, a little town outside of Morelia called Indaparapeo, Michoacan. And so our council is diverse. We have 3 really amazing council members that are Latinas and 3 women. So we are really reflective of the community we serve. I'm really proud. Our city has a racial equity action plan where we're looking at internally how do we diversify the staff within the city and how do we meet the needs of all of our community members. I'm really proud of that work. And the culture of customer service and really focusing on providing valuable public service is something that is our city manager models and our department heads do, and certainly myself and my council members do as well. Service transparency, and accountability, I think it is what those pillars and those focus have really helped us gain the support and the trust of our community, which was not the case a few years ago. So. All right, so I have here with me City Manager Ken Hyatt, who's going to go. He has a presentation so we can share a little bit more about the things that are going on here in Woodland. So, Ken, take it away.
Thank you, Councilmember Vega. Yeah, I'll try to be brief here because I think we're already past our 15 minutes, but I'll try to talk fast and try to talk clear. But like all the great communities in this region, Woodland has a tremendous story to tell, and Councilmember Vega touched on, particularly over the last 10 years, we have overcome some substantial hurdles and really positioned our community to thrive moving forward, both culturally, environmentally, but economic development-wise. So I'm going to focus on that sub-story of our community here and share with you a little bit about our journey over the last several years around how to use economic development to bring greater prosperity to our community and also the region as well. Back in 2012, I think Myra touched a little bit on the condition that we were experiencing at the time. Vacancy rate, job loss, the unemployment rate was over 15% at the time. And so the council, to their credit, said we need to focus around an intentional economic development strategy. And prior to that point, the city had fallen into the trap of big box, retail sales tax, warehouse deals. That's economic development, right? Well, guess what? It's a race to the bottom. I think a lot of communities have found that. So the council said, we need to focus on jobs, right? We need to diversify our job base and really focus around the elephant in our region, economic development engine, that is UC Davis. We are literally 7 miles from UC Davis, and the community had really paid no attention to how to leverage that asset to our benefit. And so the council, through the economic development planning and the general plan as a foundation, said, let's focus on creating careers for our residents rather than just creating jobs and sales tax for the government, right? So you've probably seen Barry Broom's presentation on this many times, but our region is blessed with some of the best talent that's being generated out of the universities, not just here at UC Davis, but Sac State, and of course the institutions out of the Bay Area, which a lot of those folks come to our region. But our greatest export in Yolo County is the talent that's coming out of UC Davis, right? So we need to be better at retaining that talent and keeping that that economic development engine primed. And so 308,000 students enrolled in a four-year university within 100 miles of Woodland, right? So we want to be part of that story, and how are we going to help change that, trajectory? Back in 2017, after adoption of the general plan, the city said we need to understand our economy better. And so we did a deep dive into all the businesses that were in Woodland. And right, to no surprise, but a forgotten reality is that food and ag is our economy. The city of Woodland have forgotten that. And so we did a pretty thorough analysis of who these companies are, how are they operating, and what we found is most of these companies actually saw a growth period through the Great Recession. Ag was thriving due to the low dollar and international investment and demand for our commodities. And so we took that analysis, and you see here 197 companies in the food and ag space. And while we like to take credit for those here in Woodland, a lot of those are actually just outside of Woodland in the county. And so it's really you can't talk about food and ag in Woodland without talking about what's happening in the county. But as you drill deeper into the profile of this economic base, what we found was surprising. It's probably the highest concentration and the most diverse concentration of food and ag related industries. And so that's everything from the seed and ag tech research that's happening here in and around Woodland. The second highest concentration of genetic research in seeds is happening right here in Woodland and Yolo County. We also had the fabrication technologies, the optical sorting technology companies that were here, of course the tractor companies, and all that support industry that props up the agricultural activity in the county. Over 374 crops that are grown here in Yolo County, so an incredibly diverse agricultural economy from that aspect. And then we have food processors and finished goods, so that value-added processing, which is becoming more and more important for California companies to essentially survive, not just compete, but survive due to the cost of living here in California. And so what we did after analyzing the profile of these companies, we said, we don't have any relationships with any of the CEOs or these companies, right? So let's invite them to sit down with us. We reached out to 25 top companies, the CEOs, and we got them in a room one evening. We served them an incredible meal, farm to fork meal. And we had this great program laid out to talk at them and ask a few questions about how can we as a city support prosperity. But the conversations were so robust amongst the industry partners that we said, forget the program. You guys keep talking. And from that one evening alone, several companies spun out, new innovations were started. And we had a follow-up conversation with the companies through a survey. It basically said, what are the biggest issues that you're facing? How can we as a city support continued prosperity and growth? And so, to no surprise, labor, water, regulations were up at the top of the list. But right there with that was, we have a great story to tell, and nobody's telling it, right? Individually and then collectively. And so, out of that was born our what we call a city-led initiative in partnership with our industry, this Food Front campaign. So the city invested in creating a storytelling platform, basically, to tell the economic development story, not just from a fiscal standpoint, but what we learned in having all these conversations with our industry partners is they're truly vested in doing it in a responsible manner, whether it's with their labor, with the environment, with water. They truly buy into this is a long-term play and it's a generational play. And so a great story came out of that, and we use this Food Front initiative to not just talk about Woodland, but the great assets here in this region. So we have a website that we support through the city, but then we bring industry together several times a year to, again, just catalyze conversations, talk about the challenges they're facing, and put forth solutions through that initiative. So it's been a pretty powerful tool for us to build relationships really at the end of the day. Of course, you saw the Ag Start lab today. So I think my only added comment to this would be the story around just bootstrapping and bringing together the partners. I approached the county and said, hey, we have this great opportunity to stand up an incubator lab here in Woodland. Would the county want to partner with the city of Woodland $100,000 and use that to match the EDA grant for $1 million? County said immediately, yes, we're in. We went to the tribe. The tribe provided a $250,000 grant to help bootstrap the first phase of the lab. And then we approached the industry partners, and through those relationships we had, they were willing to come alongside and donate equipment and over $300,000 of capital to help create this incubator lab. And so a great story and example of collaboration and the power of that collaboration with private and public and tribal partnerships. All right, so that brings me to the Research and Tech Park. So the general plan update said, it's one thing to say we want to create an innovation ecosystem and attract those jobs, but we need a place to do it. You've driven through our industrial area. It's not a place that you're going to attract technology companies and technology workers, right? So we needed to create a complete vision and plan for where to land these jobs. And so right after adoption of the general plan, we went to some of the farmers that own the land that our general plan said, this is where we want to plant a research and technology park. And they shut the door on my face and said, no, thank you. We don't trust government, right? So after cultivating that conversation a little bit longer, we got them to come around to, well, let's take 350 acres out of the general plan and see if we can get this project approved. I promised to deliver the city council. I promised to deliver the community that they wouldn't waste $2 million just to get to a CEQA lawsuit, right? So I sold them the whole bill of goods. But luckily, it all proved out true. Not quickly as I wanted to, but ultimately we got there. So fast forward, City Council has approved now a 350-acre research and technology park. I'll get to the land plan here in a minute. It's research agnostic. We like to talk about the blurring lines between life science, animal science, plant science, right? All that research and technology is starting to blur together, and UC Davis is top in the world in ag, I would argue. Wageningen, of course, is pretty good, but I think we're better. And then the top vet school in the world. So animal science and plant science, we're hard to match, but we're the only top 25 research institute, you've heard this from Barry as well, that doesn't have a research and technology park associated with it until Aggie Square, but we think this project can be a great companion to Aggie Square. So here it is in context of the city Woodland, the further south part of our community, phase 1, 350 acres, is perfectly positioned. It's the build-out second phase of our Spring Lake neighborhood that Myra mentioned is finally coming to completion in her district. Here's the land plan. The 2 million square feet of research and technology space will be right along Highway 113, literally a 7-minute drive up from the core campus of UC Davis at the 25A intersection. And we were very intentional again, say we're not just going to create a place for companies to land. We want their labor and their families to have a place where they can actually live and get to work and want to be in this place. And so the land plan, as you see here, the yellow is the planters in the room. That's the residential component. We have 11-acre central green in the middle of the project here, modeled after Central Park in Davis, but twice as big, if you can imagine that, with a farmer's market. Complemented with all the breweries, distilleries, and coffee shops anchored right at the bottom of it. They've got a very complex network of bike trails, so it's going to be very bikeable, very walkable. Again, the 11-acre linear park called The Yard will be the central sort of meeting space for the daytime population employees as well as the residents in the evening. And then we're not going to forget about transportation because James won't let us, right? But naturally, we had to innovate around mobility. So what does a project like this need to incorporate to ensure that we can maximize alternative forms of transportation in addition to bike and pedestrian? And so we've located a transportation mobility hub that will accommodate all the micro-mobility modes, including the new B-Line, which is a new YOLO Transit District micro shuttle, which thank you, West Sacramento, for pioneering in our region, improving the model for us. So we just stood up here in Woodland as well as Knights Landing and Winters, the B-Line micro shuttle service, so you can on demand get a shuttle, pick you up at your door just about, and take you to any destination. So that will be a feature, of course, at the village center of the project. So yeah, I'll stop there. Sorry, just a quick overview. And just real quick, you saw a little bit about Yolano Donnelly Housing Project. So our council in our community, right, wants to make sure that we're not just raising portions of our community up economic wise, but also those that are most disadvantaged. And so I always like to highlight the Mutual Housing in Spring Lake project. This project was built about 5 years ago, completed the second phase anyways, first phase a few years prior to that. But it was the first zero net energy multifamily project in the United States. So Mutual Housing assembled the property. We provided a loan, and they secured the additional grants, but it accommodates 61 migrant farm worker housing units and additional 40 units now on the campus. We're very focused on having to support that important part of our food and ag ecosystem, which we often overlook, and make sure that they have housing opportunities and opportunities to continue to prosper and grow in our community as well. So I'll stop there. Sorry, James. I see the eye. But anyways, yeah, happy to talk afterwards or any questions. Feel free to reach out. Appreciate the time and opportunity to share some of the stories we have here.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I got the permission of former Councilmember Tom Staley to make this announcement. For those of you who want to see YOLO agriculture in its natural setting, YOLO Land Trust brings the chefs from Sacramento out into the field. So Brad Checky, Tyler Bond puts these things on. YOLO Land Trust does a day in the country. It's fantastic. And I think Woodland did Tyler did your 30 feet, or I don't have the name right, but it's like a Tower Bridge event on.
Right, dinner on Main. Yep.
So I mean, it's a real, you know.
Yeah.
I just had to I asked Tom to make that promotion, he said you could do it.
So I would be remiss let me make one last comment. So we are very fortunate here in Yolo County to have a great partnership with the county. So a lot of cities find themselves at conflict from a land use standpoint with the county. Here, we've got the very fortunate relationship with the county where they basically said, we want the development to go to the cities, and they like to say they've taken the vow of poverty, but they truly have in many respects. But the partnership that we have with the county in terms of land use planning and ag preservation and habitat preservation is pretty unique. So we're very fortunate to have that relationship. So, all right, thank you.
Chair Saragosa?
Yes.
If I could.
Yep.
You can hear me. So I just want to thank again our host for the tour this morning. If you were able to go on the tour, I think this really, what Woodland just told you about, embodies the triple bottom line of equity, economic prosperity, environmental sustainability. I'd say the other ingredient I want to flag for everybody, which we have in addition to an incredible food and ag economy in this region and many other things we're blessed with. Director Stollard, I just want to recognize Director Stollard for a second. I know you're no longer director. I'm just call you that forever. You're still a council member, but honestly, Tom reached out to me 7.5 years ago as I got this job, before I even came here, and we had lunch in the downtown, and Tom showed me all of those buildings he's renovated and the passion to which he and many others, including Councilmember Vega, bring to this community, which all of you have. That passion, that vision, that persistence over time, I've learned so much from you, and I think we are seeing a lot of what is paid off from all of your hard work. I know we all miss you But I want to just recognize you and thank you for that.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move on with the agenda, and we're going to move to the consent calendar. These items are intended to be approved in one motion unless anyone can remove an item for a separate discussion. Does any director wish to remove an item from the consent calendar? All right, seeing none. Do we have any public comments?
There's no public comment.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion on consent.
Through the chair, God move to approve the consent.
All right. Have a second?
Thomas, second.
I have a second from Thomas. Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on to our action items and to item 10, and that is our draft budget and overall work program for 2024-2025. And Loretta Soon has this item for us this morning. Thank you, Loretta.
While Loretta is making her way up to the podium, I am going to tag team this presentation with her by giving you an overview of some of the work activities you're going to see in the draft overall work program and budget. I'm going to be sharing with you a look ahead in calendar year 2024, which is half of this proposed budget, right? And then a lot of the work that you're doing in 2024 calendar year is actually going to continue into 2025. So we thought it was appropriate for me to give you the highlight of some of those key activities that you're going to see, and then Loretta is going to dig into the work program itself and the budget. So with that, and that's exactly what I'm doing. So I want to ground us first in the strategic plan that your board adopted at the end of 2022. So given that you have this vision for a vibrant and thriving Sacramento region for all, and therefore a mission that SACOG convenes and connects the region to advance an equitable, sustainable and prosperous future, the work program activities that you see and that I'm going to highlight are all aligned to those, and they are organized under the 4 priority areas of your strategic plan. So starting with that first priority, which is to build vibrant and inclusive places where people can live, work, and play, the board adopted a policy framework for the Engage, Empower, Implement grant program at the end of last year. So looking into this year, that program is to fund community-driven planning. EEI is going to launch its first call for projects this year in the 6-county region, and then the board, you will be seeing a recommended set of projects coming forward for you to consider for approval by the end of 2024. This year, we also hope to see the completion of our first round of Green Means Go funding. We will be monitoring and championing those projects that you awarded last year. We are also working on a regional application for more funding for Green Means Go through the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Program. We will also, of course, be needing your help in advocating for the state funds, the REAP 2.0 funds, to ensure that those funds stay there so that the projects you have awarded can move forward. And then lastly, under this priority, you actually just started in on this work this year of continued implementation of your Racial Equity Action Plan, which is part of the Race Equity Inclusion Initiative. So the tour that many of you went on today is one of those. We're going to continue with our offsite board meetings so that you can get to know the varied communities and the diverse needs, aspirations, and solutions that they have within the region. Going under priority 2, which is to foster the next generation of mobility solutions. That's to help make it easier, safer, and cleaner for everyone to move throughout the region, especially low-income and historically marginalized communities. A highlight project that we have for you is the Mobility Zones program that was funded with a $5 million federal RAISE grant. It is finally kicking off. We are excited that this project is going to start working in earnest in the 6-county region. Importantly, for the first time, we're co-leading this effort with Civic Thread, that's a local nonprofit, to do the engagement work, and you will be getting a deep dive of this at your next board meeting. So the third priority area is to modernize the way we pay for transportation infrastructure. This means finding new ways to pay for transportation infrastructure and making travel more predictable for drivers. So you are already very deep into that work. You stood up CARTA, the Capital Area Regional Toll Authority. There's also a lot of work that's going on to support the YOLO 80 project, which will be the first tolled facility in the network that you envisioned in your long-range plan. And then we are continuing to work with our Caltrans and other regional partners to plan and develop out the rest of that managed lane system. And then under the fourth priority, 404, to build and maintain a safe, equitable, and resilient transportation system. SACOG's role in that is to help maintain the transportation system we have while simultaneously redesigning and reinvesting in the system to better meet the needs of underserved communities and the region's future needs. So some of the highlight projects we have under this priority are the Ready, Set, Trails plan. So this year, we're going to be working on how we can continue to help move priority projects forward. If you were on the tour, you also heard about Yolo County's piece of that and the effort they're doing, and so SACOG is trying to support that effort, among many others throughout the 6 counties. When it comes to the funding round working group this year, both the board and staff working groups are going to continue to develop a framework for the next funding round, and that's going to come forward for the board to adopt this year. And then finally, we continue to have funding opportunities at the state and federal levels. Like last year, we're looking for communication early and coordination with partners. You actually have an item before you today. It's the first attempt we have to try to prioritize a set of projects that we want to get organized and aligned around to advocate for funding for them. So there's more to come on that this year. And then lastly, that's spanning across all 4 of your priority areas is the blueprint. This year, the board is going to be working on, and you already are working on, land use and transportation strategies to include in the blueprint that meet the triple bottom line goals that you have set, that meet the state and federal requirements this plan is subject to, and doing in a way that reflects the needs and values expressed in public and stakeholder outreach. That's a very tall order. You are going to spend a lot of time on that, as you already have. That is a summary of some of the really big work program items that are happening this calendar year, and again, in the proposed budget that Loretta is going to walk through for you.
Thank you, Casey, for doing an overview of the 2024 work plan for us. And obviously, as Casey mentioned, some of these activities will carry into 2025 also. So I just want to kind of do a quick highlight of what does it mean in terms of the budgets. So first, I just want to note it that, a lot of funding opportunity that Casey had mentioned that is going to be coming through to the regions does not include it in the SACOG operating budgets. So because these funding are directly awarded to member agency and transit agencies, so those are not included in the SACOG operation budgets. The SACOG budget's only reflecting staff time that's supporting some of these activities, and then some of the planning activity that is required as an MPO, with exception of the REAP and also the Green Means Go funding that are passing through to the member jurisdictions. I also want to note that SACOG budget has a minimal impact from the state budget deficit, except for the Green Means Go. As you may have heard that, the governor has proposed a 50% reductions of this funding. So what is included in SACOG budget? So total SACOG budget is $38.4 million. This includes salary and benefits of $13.6 million as so this is mainly to support all the activities that Casey has highlighted earlier. Consulting costs and other costs of $8.3 million, and then also regional projects and pass-through costs, mainly the Green Means Go and also the REAP housing. That makes up the additional $16.5 million. Here's just a quick overview of the budget expenditures by category. Total expenditures for the fiscal year is estimated to be $38.4 million, a $1.7 million increase compared to last fiscal year. The increase mainly related to salary and benefits, which makes up 36% of the total budgets, or 5% increase compared to last fiscal year. This is due to the COLA increases and also the 1.5 FTE that is proposed in the draft budgets. 43% makes up of the pass-through fund. Again, this is mainly the Green Means Go and the REAP housing that is passed through to the member jurisdictions. And then other costs and consultant makes up the remaining 21% of the budgets. The total budget also includes a board and advocacy budgets of $1.3 $2 million. This is mainly board activity that is associated with advocacy work that is from the federal and state, and then also staff that is supporting and also providing technical assistance to the member jurisdictions. And then also the partnerships and also board expenses. So that makes up the total board and advocacy budgets. For more information on this budget is included in the attachment H of the staff item. Just want to give a quick highlights of what are some of the revenue sources actually included in SACOG budgets. This includes the federal and state formula planning funds of approximately $9.3 million, federal grants and program and awards, 4.7. As Casey mentioned, this includes the RACE grant, the carbon reductions, and also some of the TDM program works that SACOG is leading. State pass-through funds of $14.4 million, local funds, $5.4 million, and membership dues of approximately $1 million. Total projected revenue is $34.8 million. Here's also just a quick overview of the revenue source based on the federal or state. Federal makes up about 32% of the revenue. It's about $2 million decrease, and this is due to some of the completion of the discretionary grant works in fiscal year 2023-24. State revenue makes up 50% of the total revenue. Again, this assumes there's no changes to the Green Mingos funding. If should that have any impact from the final governor budget, staff will revise that in the future amendments. Local revenue is approximately $5.1 million, and it's a decrease of $563,000. This is mainly due to the lower sales tax revenue projections for the 4-county local transportation funds. With that, there is a shortfall of approximately $3.6 million. So included in the draft budget, staff is proposing to use some of the reserve funds. This includes use of SACOG managed fund of approximately $2.5 million. This includes some of the committed projects that was previously approved by the board, which includes the community design projects, the RACE grant cash match, and also the EEI program funding. Within that $2.5 million, staff is also proposing using $1 million of the SACOG managed fund as a loan to the Carter operations. And also included restricted fund use of $249,000. This is including the board and advocacy reserve and some of the restricted reserve funding. And then there's $400,000 of the saving or due to the timing of expenditures that are currently budgeted in the fiscal year 23-24, but these expenditures will push into 2024-25. And then finally, staff is seeking board approval to use $500,000 of the unassigned fund balance to continue to support the ongoing operations. This including the EEI work that Casey has mentioned, the staff costs for the Green Means Go, and also the Blueprint Environmental Impact Report, which you will hear a little bit from later from Zach on that. So total proposed use of the reserve funds is approximately $3.6 million. Just want to give a quick highlight what does it mean in terms of the fund balance. So the projected fund balance as of June 2024 is estimated to be $22.3 million. This includes SACOG managed fund of approximately $10.4 million and unassigned fund balance of $4.5 million. With the proposed use of the reserve funds of $3.6 million, the estimated fund balance is going to be $18.7 million by end of June 2025. So just a quick highlight and summary. So total expenditures projected for the current fiscal year 24-25 is going to be $38.4 million. Total revenue, $34.8 million. And then including the use of reserve funds of $3.6 million. including 2.5 million of the SACOG managed fund, and also reserve and unassigned fund balance of 1.1 million. Just do a quick highlight in terms of the development of the budget and OWP and then the adoption in April. So staff submitted a draft of the OWP and budget to Caltrans and federal agency for review and comment. With board approval today, staff will release the draft budget and OWP for public comments. And then at the April meeting, staff will bring the final budget back for board adoptions. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
To the chair.
Thank you, Loretta. Yes.
Loretta, I was trying to follow through in the packet material, and I don't see any numbers matching the numbers that you just presented. I see SACOG operations revenue of 37 million, not the 34 million. So what are these details? What do they relate to?
I'm sorry, which page are you
It's the
with?
packet, well, it's fiscal year 2024-25 budget, draft revenue, and it actually total draft revenues is 41.8 million, it says here. SACOG operations revenue, 37 million of that. And I'm just wondering why the details don't support the numbers you were presenting here.
Okay, so Director, so one thing, though, included in the package is also a draft of the CVR SAFE budget, which that is being adopted by the CVR SAFE board separately. So we're including that as an information because it do include those activities in the overall work program for SACOG.
Where is that? How do I reconcile that?
So
Because
if you're looking at attachment A, is showing reflected the total revenues of 41.8 million, which
Yes.
includes 37.1 million of the expenditures that are related to SACOG operation.
Okay.
But then also then the board and advocacy budgets of 1.2 million. So if you added those two budgets up, that is the combined budget of 38.4 million there.
those two numbers.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Yes, Director Kozlowski.
Just wondering, do we have a specific policy on the amount, a target amount to hold in the reserve, or what purpose we can pull money from the reserve for? I'm assuming there is, but I don't
Yes.
have
So
it
let me
in
just
my
go
brain.
back here. So basically, right now, in our fund balance policy, so we do have approximately about 3.8 million of contingency fundings that is reserved for basically one-time expenditures. That is a contingency fund, including that is a $1 million. And in our fund balance policy also that we are trying to increase the operating reserve up to a total of 3 months. Currently, we have a little bit over 3.1 or 3.2 million in there. So we're not quite covering the full three months of expenditures at this point yet.
In just the contingency operating reserve?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, so the other portions of this then? The total fund balance?
So that also including 500,000 of legal reserves. That is what, I'm sorry, included in the operating reserve also.
So is there an overall target, or there's only a target for the contingency operating reserve?
The only target is the operating reserve, which we are trying to get up to the 3 months
Okay.
right now. So we're not quite there yet at this point. Yeah.
Question.
So, I'm sorry, let me just continue this line of questioning. The SACOG managed fund then, what is the purpose for pulling the funds out of there to spend them?
So the SACOG managed fund is a fund or accumulations of all the funds that we either do like an exchange of funds with member agency that we are basically saving up more local flexible funds where we're using those funds basically to fund for the community design program that is part of the funding round, and also as a loan to member agencies, should there be any needs on that. And also included in that fund, SACOG managed fund policy is also using some amount of that for for match And so that it's easier for member jurisdictions to apply for federal awards where they may not have the local cash available for as a match requirements.
Okay. And does that fund typically have this much money in it?
It's been accumulating up, so so this is the latest balance. So it's been kind of slowly accumulated up a little bit, depending on any activities that we have. Would member jurisdiction do the funding round or do any exchange or loan that is part of that would be able to accumulate money that is reserved basically just for the SACOG managed fund, and obviously any use of that has to come through the board for approval.
Got it. Thank you.
Certainly can give you a bit of a history on just the recent, again, it's a very important fund, as Letta was saying, in terms of loans. We loan projects that are having a hard time. It's the most flexible source of money we have to do things like some of the grants and the local match, and also our community design and even our EEI funds are going to be using that because state and federal funds have strings attached to them. But this is probably the largest it's been for a while.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Excuse
Yes.
me, real quick,
Yes. Yes.
please. Your budget, the revenues, what percentage of those revenues are firmly committed? If it was a commercial operation, do we have bookings for this total amount?
So
For those
they-
firms, in other words, what's firmly committed? If it's not all firmly committed, where's the risk? And then where's the upside?
So these are our committed revenues. So staff is doing really taking a conservative approach in terms of estimate revenues. So these are revenue that it's definitely will be coming into SACOG, either do federal loan agreements or MOUs with Caltrans and discretionary grants that SACOG has received. So these are our real revenue.
Zero risk. Thank you.
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, the only risk at this point is the Green Means Go funding for this from the state. That at this point we're not sure what exactly will happen with that yet.
Director Schaefer?
So what is it, moving forward beyond this year, what does next year's projections look like? And are we developing a plan? Because it's unlikely that things are going to rebound in 12 months. We might be right back here, and we're talking about we're not meeting the 3-month obligation right now. So it doesn't look good. So what's our strategy for moving forward and making sure that we're not coming back here and asking for, we're gonna borrow again?
Schaefer, if I can take that question,
Sure.
Loretta, you can certainly follow up. So just remember, this action is to release for comment today, and then we come back a month from now for the next fiscal year budget. We're developing a 3-year look at the moment, and that'll go through the Policy Innovation Committee as the Budget Committee, but if the board wants to see that, because we have the same question you do, as I'm sure all your local governments do, which is future projections and future revenues. We're already seeing our sales tax revenue that we actually have a piece of drop. I'm sure you're seeing that too in a number of places. One thing I will say about the deficit, right? So you're looking at a borrowing off reserve. We've done that in the past, and we have, to Director Branscom's question, these are committed revenues, but we work really hard to try to close that gap through the fiscal year. So we go after grants and other revenue sources, and usually that operating deficit shrinks and our need to use those reserve funds shrinks. But we'll see how we do this year, right? So, but we're very happy to bring a more of a 3-year look for all of you if you want to look at that and see how that compares to this fiscal year. But that, again, we're trying to be conservative on revenues. We dig into we dig into the reserve fund to make sure we're balanced, and then we go after as much as we can ways to make up that deficit and not have to use as much reserve.
Thank you, James. And then I also want to add also to the reason also being large is with the SACOG managed fund, there were committed funds that previously approved by the board to use. For example, for the race grant match, That's a 1.2 million that the board previously approved. So that's part of that. I mean, obviously not the full 1.3 million, but and also the EEI program that we're working on. So there is part of that is coming from the SACOG managed fund. And then also because also some of the timing of expenditures also that is part of that 900,000 that staff is proposing. And then there are also one-time cost that is related to the blueprint, which is only happening, every 4 years, right? So in next year that these expenses might not be there anymore. So, but as James said, we are working on a 3 years projections, and hopefully we'll bring more information back to the board on that.
All right, thank you. Do we have any other questions? All right, seeing none, do we have any public comments?
There's no public comment.
All right, thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
So seconded.
All right, we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Thank you, Loretta. Thank you, Casey. All right, moving on to item 11, which is our federal funding grant prioritization, and Mr. Doherty has this for us.
Thank you, Chair and members of the board. Chris Doherty with the Transportation Department. The item for you this morning is as indicated by Casey earlier, our first cut at a regional prioritization list generally aimed at federal funding. So the goal of this program really is to at this point, we're limiting this program to focus on federal funding at this time. We've done this fairly quickly. This is really being done in advance of the annual cap-to-cap trip, so there's a larger advocacy, really focused advocacy platform moving forward. We're also doing this really to increase our regional competitiveness. We've done fairly well at state grants. We've done okay at identifying and being competitive for federal grants. So we would like to increase our competitiveness for your jurisdictions to compete for these federal programs. And also, these large projects that we're aiming for these programs, we have a lot of tension in our funding round between our local needs and these large projects that move the needle. The more that we can fund these large projects on state and federal grants in the future, the more funds we have to really address our local needs that have very difficult time finding funding in other areas. So as I said, this is an initial prioritization effort. This is, again, aimed at that cap-to-cap trip that you guys are mostly looking at in April. And we're looking at about 5 projects to prioritize to move forward. This is the start of a larger process. We're going to be cracking this back open in summer for a larger view and a larger process that will open it up to state and other federal programs coming up, as we are anticipating programs like the SB1 funding programs at the state level and other programs coming online. We did a lot of agency outreach for this, although this was done fairly quickly. We did at least a one-on-one to almost every jurisdiction or the county agencies that operate for them. For example, 3 of our counties have an RTPA. Well, 2 of our counties have a separate RTPA, and Sac County has STA. We worked with them for partnerships to identify those large priorities for those counties. For counties that did not have those, we did individual contact into staff, find out what those regional priorities were, and to see if they can get them on this list. Because we wanted to make sure that people were applying for federal grants first. We received 14 projects for this kind of quick turnaround. And we evaluated those projects based on, first of all, ran through some eligibility requirements. First, are they seeking federal funds, first and foremost? Are they currently in our MTP SCS? That's a requirement for almost every grant program. That's a kind of a base level requirement for us. And have they had either SACOG past funding from SACOG, as in a board-approved funding, or did they have a significant amount of funding already on that project to make them really competitive for federal grants? We also bucketed these projects into project types, so that, and the goal here is really so these projects are not competing against each other as they go for federal programs. So we were looking at bridges, we're looking at transit projects. We looked for rural projects, managed lane road projects, and adaptation and resiliency projects. So we took those 14 projects that were submitted to us and kind of ran them through a set of evaluation criteria that really focused on 3 efforts. And that was, is the project regionally serving? How competitive is it for the program it's asking to apply to? And how ready is it? And so we use those evaluation criteria that are listed here to make those decisions. So we took this to the Transportation Committee 2 weeks ago and presented a list of proposed projects. We had, in generally they were supportive of that concept, we had some additional information come to us at that meeting, primarily from Sacramento Regional Transit, that identified that one project that we had prioritized was not seeking federal funds this year. We thought it was. So because of that new information, the action at the Transportation Committee gave us the flexibility to adjust the transit category for the proposed projects, and that was listed out in the staff report. In addition to that, we received notification from Yolo County that the project we had identified for a rural project, they were going to be pulling that from a project list, so that was not listed as a priority for them anymore for this fiscal year. So we pulled that project out as well. So with that, we landed on 5 projects that is proposed for your consideration this morning. We are looking at for the bridge project, the I Street Bridge Replacement Project, large regional bridge that connects Yolo County and Sacramento County and City of Sacramento and West Sacramento. For the RAISE program specifically, this is the Grant Line Road Safety and Mobility Project. This is also a section of the connector, but it is to be specific, this is a 2-lane version of that project that is addressing both safety and maintenance issues on that segment. In El Dorado County, the infrastructure to build out EDCTC and Placerville's Trip to Green program. For transit, this is the one where we made an adjustment from, we'd originally prioritized the Stockton BRT project, and I'm sorry, this seems to be a typo. That was, that should have, we swapped that out, and I apologize, that was a mistake on my part. We have then prioritized the downtown riverfront streetcar project in place of that. They are pursuing the same program, but the streetcar project is now pursuing it for this year, while this project is pursuing it for next year. So, and your staff report reflects the correct project on that, and I apologize for that mistake. And then lastly, this is the large 7-county carbon reduction program that is being led by the Air District and several partners. There's an $80 million ask for a whole host of projects in there, so we prioritize that for a carbon reduction strategy. And that concludes my presentation. We're seeking your recommendation to approve today for this list of projects, and I'm available for any questions you might have.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Yes.
Move to approve.
Thank you. We have a first. Who's second? Thank you.
I beat you to it.
Do we have,
Speak back, girl.
we do have a public comment from Kevin Busey with STA.
This is like the fishbowl here. Everybody's looking at me. Kevin Busey, Executive Director of STA. So I'm here to support this item. I think regional priorities are much more successful when you're going to advocate, especially at cap to cap. I think SACOG, STA was very engaged in this effort. We had actually 26 applications within Sacramento County. And we went through those and we kind of narrowed it down to 6 to give SACOG to consider. And a few of those did get included in the list, so I want to thank SACOG for that. We also appreciate SACOG identifying projects that are more in the project development stage, specifically the Stockton Boulevard Multimodal Partnership and BRT projects, and similarly the 8065 interchange, which these are long-term priorities, but they're just not quite ready to advocate at like a cap-to-cap type event. And the other 2 points I want to make is by taking this action, we're going to set very clear priorities for the region when we advocate and allow us to all speak with one voice. So with that, those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. We have any other public comments?
No public comment.
Great. Directors? Yes, Director Thomas.
Yes, thank you. I just want to I very much appreciate the trip to green in this federal prioritization, and I applaud the direction, as the previous speaker mentioned. Speaking with one voice back at the federal level will reap benefits for our region. As far as the trip to green, it is truly an innovative, practical solution to an entrenched challenge that affects not only El Dorado County residents, but the 8+ million Bay Area and regional visitors that go up to Tahoe. So it's truly a cutting-edge project, and I really appreciate it being in the federal prioritization list.
Thank you. Yes. Dr. Kennedy.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to ask a question about the Stockton Boulevard BRT line and why that was taken off the list and why the list was changed. I mean, I will say that I've been on the tour of that route with members of Congress, with the FTA staff, and there's huge enthusiasm and the feeling that it would be very competitive. So just kind of, and is this specifically just for cap to cap? I guess what I want to get to, and I don't know who this is directed toward, but by removing it from this list, is that going to therefore hurt the project as we continue to work on it? This is the busiest line in the RT system, and a lot of people back in Washington, D.C. are very high on it.
We also are enthusiastic about that project as you are as well. That was at request of Sacramento Regional Transit because they were going to be applying for that next year in the next round of that grant program. So this is that incubation component that Kevin referenced, that we talked about a little bit in the staff report as well.
So the chair's always the last to know, is what you're saying. Thank you for that. Okay.
So yeah,
the chair of SACRT too.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but no, that is clearly a regional priority. It's a timing issue right now. When we go through and go with that larger prioritization effort that's coming in summer, I can envision it being a major part of that process.
But let me just, your opinion is that this won't hurt the competitiveness by removing it, and it won't send any signals that will make it a weaker project?
I don't believe that it will. I think, so we put some seed funding into that project at the last funding round. Right. We want that, I think, to get a little bit of a head of steam and start moving forward and start to get that project description and details moving. I think there are some near-term state opportunities to get the design of that funded, and then so that we're queuing that up then for a large federal grant down the road. So we're definitely working with the team that is running that project and moving that forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I want to thank the work that staff has done here to put this recommendation of priorities together, because it obviously does speak volumes when we speak with one voice. But I want to raise and continue on this concern that the chair of our T board here just mentioned, because while this particular project may be in the transit category, it's part of a bigger, larger effort that SACOG is moving forward. We just talked earlier about, green means go, or as I say, vamos con verde, that it is multifaceted in housing and transit, multimodal. And by not including it, I worry that one, particularly in 2 weeks, we're going to be doing a bus tour with our congressional members down Stockton Boulevard on this, and they're going to say, but this is not on your list. So while it's timing-wise about now, and I think this is where, again, I think the rubric that's been put together is good. It's our rubric, it's SACOG's rubric, not necessarily what the federal government is saying or looking for. It helps us identify priorities, but I do worry that we may be shortchanging ourselves, particularly because I want to thank, our members who met with the EPA administrator. Very fortunate to have that conversation. And one of the takeaways that the EPA administrator directly said when we were discussing this Carbon Reduction Act was to not forget and not to pigeonhole ourselves on one agency specific, that these are multi-agencies. So that I think is where I worry that knocking this off the list, rightly so for good reasons, that maybe the staff recommended from RT, that would affect this. So I would suggest that we find as Mr. Busey mentioned, a component or a subtitle or an asterisk that says development project. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Director.
Director, if I just could respond to echo what Chris was saying, I think, look, that project did really well in SACOG's last funding round. As you and Director Kennedy have mentioned, it is the highest transit line bus ridership, right, in the entire SAC-RT system, so thus it must be in the entire region. It is a multi-agency, city, county, SAC-RT endeavor. It was requested, as we just mentioned, to be removed from the list by SAC-RT. And here's the thing I think that's different. This is not a list of all the regional priorities yet. It's what's ready for federal funding. And what we don't want to do is bring a project back to DC that's not yet ready. We'll get too many questions. I've been in those meetings. What we want to do is bring it back when it's ready and then put the full force of our entire cap to cap and all of you locally. So it is a timing thing. You'll also notice that the Yolo County Road 98 actually is not on this list because when we first solicited all the project sponsors, they said, we might apply for a federal grant. We'd love to be on the list. And since then, as you know, it is a big deal to apply for a federal grant. They have not gone forward and applied. So we don't want to be carrying projects that are not sort of actively seeking those funds. That is the only reason it's not on there. And I do not think it's going to hurt our chances, actually only be a smarter strategy in the longer run.
Any other questions, comments?
Real quickly, I'd like to endorse James's comments there. Once you go beyond a 5-bullet point list, you start to lose your audience. And that's an overstatement here, but this is obviously a worthy project that you're speaking to, but in order to keep it crisp and focused, increase the chance of winning, this is the list that is being presented.
Director Jennings?
Yeah, I don't want to dispute what's been said here, and I don't want to change the system of how we select projects. I just think that we have to be very careful as far as communication is concerned, because when different bodies are having conversations with congressional members and taking tours with congressional members and having conversations about it, if we're not on the same page, it sends a mixed message. And so I think it's very important for us to talk in ways that allow the message to not destroy the project, and then the message to carry the project to the proper timing and year and all of that. But we have to come together to make sure that that message is consistent.
I think that's a super important point, and I think one thing I just want to reiterate here is when we go back east to cap, we have our list of the priority projects, but what we have done is created a leave behind that does include some of these other projects that we know are in development, that we know are going to be coming maybe next cycle. So Stockton BRT is on there. We're actually providing a narrative about it, talking about how important it is, and sort of making it known that it's not going right now, but this is still a priority for the region, and we want to be able to talk about it. So just because it's not on this specific list doesn't mean that there's not the opportunity for it to be visible and talked about when we're in DC.
Great. Any other comments? All right, seeing none, we have a first and a second. I will go ahead and move this forward. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving along, we're going to go to item 12, which is our 2025 blueprint and our environmental impact report requests for proposals, and Mr. Miller has this for us.
Thank you. Good morning, members of the board. My name is Zach Miller, Principal Planner with SACOG. So I'm here today to discuss the request for proposal, or RFP, for the Environmental Impact Report, or EIR, for the 2025 blueprint. So this item was originally presented at the February Policy and Innovation Committee, as well as the Board of Directors meetings. The board directed staff to come back to the Policy and Innovation Committee meeting, or committee, with a fully developed RFP so that the board could directly review and approve that RFP. Taking into consideration comments and requests from board members at the February meetings, staff developed and brought forward the following to the Policy and Innovation Committee earlier this month. So one, a draft version of the request for proposal, which is also included in your packet here today. And then based on the board's expressed interest in having some additional oversight of the procurement process for the EIR, several options were presented to the committee. So based on those options that were presented to the committee, the Policy and Innovation Committee is recommending that SACOG board authorize the following process. So one, release the RFP for professional services to assist SACOG with the development of the EIR for the 2025 blueprint. Two, the board chair appoints 2 board members to participate in consultant interviews during the procurement process. And 3, authorize the SACOG executive director to select a vendor and negotiate and execute a contract with a not-to-exceed budget of $800,000. Should the board approve the proposed approach today, staff will release the RFP to solicit proposals from qualified consultants. Then the staff would then implement the requested board oversight of the procurement process. Once a vendor is selected through that process, the executive director would then negotiate and execute a contract with the selected vendor for an amount not to exceed $800,000. So that's an overview of kind of where we've been and the current recommendation from the Policy and Innovation Committee. With that, I'd like to inquire if the Policy and Innovation Chair Gallardo or Board Chair Zaragoza would like to offer any additional comments regarding this recommendation.
Thank you. Jill, you want to give some comments?
See down this way. Thank you. Well, I think Zach covered most of it, but I think for the committee heard loud and clear the message that they wanted us to have a deeper dive, and so we did go through, came up with these recommendations. I think we were looking at the timeline to make sure that we had as many possible participants out there, and then also recognizing that you wanted somebody to look deep into the details. And as we finished that and came through with this recommendation, Director Desmond volunteered to serve, and myself as the chair volunteered to serve at the discretion of our chair here. So we're happy to do that if you'd like us to take that on.
Great. Thank you, Director Gallardo. And that's, yeah, no other comments from me on that. Okay. We have a first and second. Director Kennedy has comments.
Thank you to the committee and to staff for bringing this back as we did. I guess I just want a clarification because the executive director is going to make the selection. So what's the role of the committee?
The committee will be presenting the executive director with their recommendation based on the criteria developed for the interview process.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, do we have any public comments on this item?
There's no public comment.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I just wanted to make a notation. We did have, as our policy chair indicated, a very detailed discussion about this and formulating these recommendations. I just wanted to say, for the purposes of the record, that involving 2 of our board members in that interview process is not precedent-setting, that SACOG has done this in the past. And so we're certainly going down in familiar territory. But it really was, I think, a compromise to ensure that we can move forward with the RFP so that it's timely, but that we also have just that little extra cushion from our board member review. So I would support the motion. Thank you.
Great.
Quick
Thank you.
comment.
Thank you,
This is
Dr.
not a
Branscombe.
criticism of independent discretion by the executive director. This gives the executive director a broader base of support on whatever's decided.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to our workshop, and from the Center for Land-Based Learning, and I think Mr. Rosa is going to at least kick it off for us.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Garrett Balladrosa with SACOG staff. It's my pleasure to tee up our workshop today. It's really a continuation of those of you that were on the tour this morning, as well as the conversation the Lunar Committee had in March about the work that communities and the region are doing through the food system to connect the urban and rural areas bring healthy food into communities, but also have this serve as an economic development opportunity. I'm very pleased to be joined by two speakers today, Trish Kelly of Valley Vision and Mary Kimball of the Center for Land-Based Learning, to talk about first Trish, the regional view, and then Mary, some really concrete examples of what's going on here in YOLO. And again, the idea is to continue that conversation from the board, and then to not a better place than to here in Woodland to continue a conversation about the food system. So as we bring Trish and Mary up, first I wanted to talk about this Coordinated Rural Opportunities Plan, or CROP. This is the first thing that Trish is going to be talking to. It's a joint effort between SACOG and Valley Vision, and really builds off of the work that we've done over the past decade together about highlighting the role the rural economy plays in the full region, and why we still continue to need to think about the food system and what infrastructure investments and other needs it has because of its support across the region. I'm pleased to say as well that we've corresponded the release of this CROP report to this board meeting today. So in your packet, you have the link to the URL. That's a regional profile, as well as 6 county deep dives and a suite of data about the food system. And again, the idea is, what sort of investments do we need to be making in the regional food system to support food and ag? So first up, Trish Kelly, Managing Director from Valley Vision, to give us the regional look, and then we'll have Mary come up to talk about local examples. Trish?
6-county area and beyond. And we work on research and other projects to support the livability of the region. So, as Garrett mentioned, this project is funded through a grant from the Department of Conservation, and it's providing us with a lot of opportunity for engagement with our stakeholders in all 6 of our counties around our food and ag assets. And so it's not just what is grown on the farm, but what happens when the product moves off the farm. And it has a huge impact on our economy. So food and agriculture has been one of our key leading industry clusters in our regional economic strategies for many years. And we are going through a process now for California Jobs First, where the state is investing in 12 regions across the state to lift up inclusive, carbon-friendly economic strategies. And we've been updating our economic data with the Brookings Institution and others. And so Food and Ag continues to lead, giving us a really strong competitive advantage nationally and globally, especially with the asset of UC Davis. So here is just a quick overview of some of our key highlights. As Garrett mentioned, there's a profile for each county and an overall regional profile, so there's a lot of depth of data in there that we hope is a resource for all of you. But just to note here that the farm gate value, which is what comes directly off the farm, has been basically increasing over the last period of time. There have been some ups and downs, and some of that is what you all experienced is the climate impacts. We've had a lot of different things: floods, droughts, fires, extreme heat, air quality impacts, and yet our farmers are really pushing through on that. And even though we've lost farmland over the years, we've continued to increase in productivity, and that's technology improvements, as well as we grow a great number of high-quality crops. So, but how do we prepare for this new future? And that's partly the purpose of this project, is to look at how we can improve our resilience and then deal with other factors such as commodity changes. We've had a lot of impacts, for instance, on our nut crops lately, and they really flow all through the economy. So we are trying to really support the opportunity and the ability to keep this cluster viable and innovative through looking at a wide range of infrastructure. So one of the key challenges that we're facing is that we have an aging workforce, and this is a national problem. It's not just here in our region, but the average age of farmers is over 56 years of age. As you can see, well, it might be a little bit hard to see, but in our overall regional profile, you'll have this data. 30 to 40% of the farmers in our counties are over 65 years of age. So you really can't farm if you don't have farmers. So, and then we have a cohort of new and emerging farmers, which just averages 5 to 10%. So a lot of our workforce programs are geared to trying to create not only the next generation of farmers, but farm managers and people all across the supply chain, including manufacturing. And Mary's programs really are a stellar example of trying to grow that next generation of farmers and ranchers. and give them the skills, such as the technology and digital skills, to thrive in this changing environment. One of the big issues, too, in addition to farming, is that you need the land, and that's why a lot of the technology companies are here, because they can actually test the technology with farmers on the ground, and we have very innovative farmers, but we have lost about 237,000 acres of prime or good farmland since 1988. And in the report, we disaggregate between two time periods, 1988 and 2004, and then 2004 to 2018. And we looked at the average amount of land converted each year. So in the first time cycle, the average land was about 8,800 acres across all the counties converted. And then in the more recent period, about 6,800. So this second period kind of coincides with the implementation of the blueprint, so there does appear to be a positive benefit. All the counties have policies that support agriculture and want to keep ag viable and keep the land use in source, but we also know that there are trade-offs for, that we have housing needs. More recently, we have renewable energy needs, so there's been some transfer of land to solar farms. So we're in a balancing situation, but we do need to remember that once you lose prime farmland, you don't get it back, and this has an important economic impact down the line. So, of course, transportation being a big priority here. We looked at the pavement condition index for each county, and all the counties are below 70%, which means all the regional rural roads conditions are at risk. And so we know that the financing is a challenge, and the conditions are worsening if they're not maintained. We need them critically for farm to market routes, for agritourism, especially. That's a huge economic driver. And then especially with all of the challenges that we've had with the climate impacts, we need them for public safety and for emergency services. So we know how important our rural roads are, and it's a huge intersection with our urban communities as well. So just something else to note there. Some counties are kind of trending back up, or they're stable, but several of our counties are in a downward situation. So broadband is another huge issue. It's an enabling technology for us to be able to implement broadband precision ag technologies, keep us competitive. It helps us manage resources like water and energy better. It helps farmers compete globally, and it helps deal with our labor shortages. So, however, although this data is from 2017 from the U.S. Census of Ag, and the next data is about to come out, we know this from our work through the Connected Capital Area Broadband Consortium that Valley Vision manages, that this is a huge ongoing challenge in our rural areas. There's new funding coming in from the state and federal investments post-pandemic, and the counties are all working hard on this issue, but you can see 12 to 21% of farms did not have internet in 2017. And we know through this process of talking to the Farm Bureau and the Ag Commissioners and others that it's an ongoing issue, and it's not just the internet, it's cell phone coverage. We've talked to a lot of farmers that say once you get off into the field, there's nothing. So it's a public safety issue again, too, because if something happens to a worker in the fields, you can't even call. So it affects our rural communities. A lot of the businesses in the towns, too, or processing facilities suffer from this lack of internet. So everybody needs to be connected. So where we're going now with all of this in our profiles, we highlight these challenges, but also all these fantastic things that are happening across the region, across several different categories of infrastructure. So we highlighted 4 key areas: water, which includes water conveyance management, quality, and flood risk; land use and housing; transportation and broadband; and then a category called food systems and governance. So a lot of growers, of course, are dealing with new regulations and how to plan for these kind of new requirements that they have to deal with, as well as just what the county planners and jurisdictions are dealing with. But it also is the economic development aspect. So you heard a lot today about the plant, the Woodland Technology Park, Ag Start, and others, plus the 200 companies that are here, and how food and ag can be an economic driver. And so everybody across the counties mentioned the need for more processing facilities, food hubs to connect to markets, provide new markets for growers and food producers, et cetera. So we've really tried to lift up these opportunities and hope that you'll be able to use this in your own local planning. And then we support and elevate projects like all the water and flood projects that the region is working on, and the transportation projects. These are things that other partners are implementing also, but we want to support our cap-to-cap overall policy agenda, for instance. And so these are all woven together to support the viability of agriculture, the economy, productive land use. Conservation is a big need. It has habitat values and flood protection and safety, and just overall our quality of life and sustainability for the community. So this is what we're also trying to do, is maximize the full value of our food system. The farm gate value is $2 billion, but it translates minimum to $12 billion. So some of the Farm Ag Commissioner reports are looking at the value of farm gate, but the much bigger impact on the economy. So we want to also support agritourism and broader economic development for each of the counties and jurisdictions. So all of these profiles try to provide tangible information, best practices that you can look at across our partners, and state and federal and local resources that are being used to drive these projects. So all the information is up live now on the Valley Vision website, and we have supporting data and maps and a lot of other background materials. So we are here for you as a resource. I want to thank Garrett for doing a fantastic job, and the staff for supporting us. And I want to acknowledge Grace Kaufman, who's our project manager, who just did also a fantastic job. So we're here for you with any information needs that you have. And after that, I'll introduce Mary, the Center for Land-Based Learning Director. Thank you.
Well, I have the unenviable task of being right before lunch, which is almost as bad as right before happy hour. But I'll do my best to move through this as quickly as I can. Some of these slides, I'm just going to ask you folks to read, and I will probably do some highlights and not get through all of the details. But yeah, some of you I saw this morning on the bus, and you stopped off at our headquarters for the Center for Land-Based Learning. We are the focus today is going to be on the California Farm Academy program. We have many, many programs within the Center for Land-Based Learning, but today's focus is on the farmer and how do we increase the number of farmers. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about 4 of our programs: Beginning Farmer Training Program, Farm Business Incubator, our support of veterans, and our Community Food Program. So for those of you who are interested in our mission, here it is: to inspire, educate, and cultivate the future generations of farmers, agricultural leaders, and natural resource stewards. And a little aside, the future generation thing, I feel we redid our mission statement about 7 years ago, and now I feel like future gen and next gen is everywhere. So there it is. But that is our absolute focus, is on what's coming next. So back to what Trish teed up so well. Great to have all of these other things as a part of the crop report, but if you don't start with the farmer, whose average age, as she said, is now almost 58 years old in the United States, and in Yolo County and in this region, really a big chunk of our farmers are over 65. How, and especially from a racial equity standpoint, how are we going to ensure that these areas of our region are thriving? So we got into the business of training new farmers. You'd be surprised. It's not like there's not many of us out there that train new farmers, even at the national level, because what has happened normally is you come through the family, right? That is the training program. Well, there's 1.8% of our population in the United States are farmers today. 1.8%. And then, in terms of a racial equity perspective, what do you think the percentage of white farmers is in this country? Any guesses? Someone's been doing their homework. 86.5, that's right, 87%. Yeah. How about black farmers? Any guesses on the percentages of black farmers in the United States? 2%, just under 2%. Guess what it was in 1920? 100 years ago. No, we had almost 1 million black farmers in 1920 across the country. Today, we have 45,000. This is 100% a massive issue in our world today, and especially in agriculture. So what do we do as an organization? Our focus is bringing everybody to the table and giving everybody an opportunity to be a farmer. That means there's a lot of different elements. I'm going to try to talk about that. So first, we start out with the basic Explorer course. Is this even something that you think you might want to do? It's like, as one of our staff likes to call it, it's the kicking the tire course, right? It's like, I think I might want to be a farmer. I think it looks really glorious and fun and romantic, and I'm going to have so much fun. If that's, this is the kicking the tire course. So it's short. It's a 4-week course. And if they leave that one saying, yeah, that's not for me, we actually are happy with that, right? Because part of this is vetting. The next step is the Beginning Farmer Training Program. This has been our cornerstone course. We started this in 2012. We were one of the first in California to start. We are one of the ones that are still going in California. There's not very many, which is hard to believe, really, given we're the #1 agriculture state in this country by far. So this is 7 months. 7 months, 3 days a week. It's designed for working adults. Two nights a week and 2 Saturdays a month. And over the course of 7 months, it's almost 300 hours. And that includes, of course, classroom time, field trip time, where they're going and visiting all kinds of different farms. And also, a big chunk of this is they have to do a business plan. Because we know that if you don't do the business plan, then you're not going to be successful as a farmer. So beginning trainer. Then the next piece, which is in some ways the most important piece, is the issue around land access. And this is especially where I want to get into the racial piece. So land access is 100% the biggest challenge in farming. Access to land, and of course access to capital. But if you don't have access to the land, who cares about the capital? So what we have done is we emulated a program, many programs around the United States, but specifically a program out of Salinas area, which is called ALBA, Agriculture and Land-Based Association. And they had also an incubator, meaning that we have land, some of you saw that this morning, that we sublease out to beginning farmers. So that's our land in Woodland, and then we, of course, have land that we sublease in West Sacramento. In May of this year, we will be celebrating our 10th anniversary of having our urban farm program in the city of West Sacramento. And I really want to call out the city of West Sacramento in this realm, because it was their city council, their staff, their community that came to us and said, we know that this is an issue. We know that land access, especially for BIPOC farmers, is an issue. And we know we have land available. How can we work together? So 10 years later, that program is absolutely thriving and growing. So this is an area where investment by the jurisdiction can make an absolute difference. So Farm Business Incubator, they get to lease land from us for up to 5 years. Okay, so, but then there's still an issue. 5 years, okay, now you're really getting into it. Now what? Well, the land access issue, and actually I'm gonna come back to that other slide, but these are just two locations where we have our incubator program. I want to talk about beyond the incubator, and then I'm going to go back to that other slide. Because once they get complete with their incubator program, we still have an issue. Where are they going to go? Where are they going to go to start their businesses? Ability to buy land? Good luck. Ability even to lease land? Good luck. Okay? So This is an example of someone, Nelson Hawken, you might have seen him lately. He and a group of other black farmers have created, he was in our West Sacramento Urban Farm Program. He was there for 5 years, same thing, came up against that wall. Where do I go? How do I create access to land for myself as well as for other black farmers? So he did a lot of work. He and his group did a lot of work. They worked very closely with Assemblywoman Cecilia Aguiar Curry and Senator Dodd, and were able to push through a chunk of funding that came through CDFA and then through the state parks. And I think this is the first in the state. I'm pretty sure it is, where they actually purchase land for their farm in Yolo County. And they have now, they closed on that property at the end of November, and they've now, it's 20 acres, and they've now started operating that farm here in Yolo County. But again, without that funding, without that support, they would not have been able to access the kind of land that they were needing to grow and scale. So I want to talk a little bit, again, yes? I'm sorry. It's okay. Hey, I like that.
So your definition of farmer when you were doing wage statistics, is that somebody who has land and is the operator of a farm? Or
Correct.
Is it somebody who works
in
the farm business?
It's someone who's the owner-operator.
Okay.
Owner-operator, yep. And that can be leased land, as we know. I mean, many of my friends doesn't matter what size and scale of farm, are leasing land. I mean, I have friends who, operate 10,000 acres and are only own 30% of it. Yes?
What percentage of farms today are corporate farms?
So that's always an excellent question. The term corporate is a problem from a terminology perspective because pretty much most farms are incorporated. They're incorporated for the purposes of legal protections and everything else. But that is still, people still think, and I get it, they think that California as well as other states are being taken over by large corporations. Is that an issue? Yes, of course. Land transition is an issue. In the state of California, the average farm size is still 150 acres. Most people don't realize that. And most farms, 90+%, are family farms. So yes, there is a challenge. We know that. We all see this in our jurisdictions, right? We see large PGIM, Prudential, coming in, and many others, Wells Fargo. There's lots of different investment groups that have come in and that are owning farms. That is true. It is definitely, this land transition is just one more example of why it is so difficult if you are a beginning farmer or a person of color that doesn't come in with institutional wealth. You have no chance of buying up against those folks.
Question to that point.
Yes.
So the question to that point is, within the training that you're doing for the farmers, is someone helping them to learn how to negotiate contracts that go beyond 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, taken advantage of so that they can't be successful based on what has been negotiated? Is that a part of your
Yes, Councilman, absolutely. Thanks for asking that. It is definitely part of the training program. And then once, especially once they're in the incubator program with us, they get additional ongoing education. We also have all kinds of education that we provide for our alumni. So if you're an alumni of our program, you are going to be able to be assisted over as long as you want assistance. Of course, not everybody decides they want to go into farming and stay in farming, but we definitely do. We work with lots of different partners, Kitchen Table Advisors, California Farm Link. There's many that this is actually their niche. And so rather than us doing all of the training, we work with other organizations to absolutely help with that. But you bring up a good point about leasing. You can get into, you think that you're good to go, and then someone wants to sell that land. That's happening, all the time. And so we constantly have some of our beginning farmers say, "Hey, I'm in a 5-year lease," and then the landowner's selling. So there's not much you can do, right? That's private landowner rights, but that happens quite a bit. So I just wanted to highlight the diversity of our participants in our program, since we're really talking about racial equity today. So in our beginning farmer training program alumni, this is just our total numbers of over the last 12 years. 194 alumni for beginning farmer training, 41 incubator farmers, and 19. We just started the Explorer program. It's only 2 years old. 55% of our participants are people of color, which we are very, very proud of. And again, going back to what those demographics, what I talked about earlier in terms of what we see across the country and in California too, that is really something we're very proud of. 30% BIPOC in our incubator program. And then 23% of our participants are veterans. I just was looking at a stat this morning. 9% of U.S. Farmers are veterans. So again, this is something that we're really, really pushing forward. Back to veterans, we have funding from USDA. It's called the Ag Vets program. And it is specifically to help support these veterans, not just with the training and land access, but the wraparound services that they so often need, right? That PTSD, there's so many issues and so many challenges that we help them and support with them. So we have staff. Hi. Did you want to make a comment?
I have a
Myra?
question, Mary. Thank you so much. So I was really impressed by the statistics and the diversity of your participants.
Thank you.
Do you offer these courses or these programs in Spanish?
At this time, our training program is in English. That is something, and I'll talk about our apprenticeship program in a bit, but we hope to in the future, but it would require additional funding. To your point, I mean, it really does, right? So right now it's all in English. ALBA, which is in again, I was talking about Salinas, that's all in Spanish, and that's specifically for farm workers who want to transition to become farm owners. So they started in Spanish and they're still in Spanish. And so that is something that it is a goal of ours for sure, to be able to have additional language opportunities. As of now, we don't have any additional funding to start programs in Spanish, but great question. And so for our veterans, we have tuition assistance, we have stipends, housing stipends, because we are registered with the Veterans Association, and we are a GI Bill approved institution. They can get all of their benefits as if they were in school when they're taking training programs with us. And again, there's that 23%. Just a few fun photos, just to, lighten up and heighten up your day. It's exciting. The people that we work with is just amazing, and we are all inspired every day by their goals and dreams and how we can help them get there. I want to finish up with our community food program, and I know I'm at noon. So this is one of our newest programs that grew out of our West Sacramento Urban Farm program, because we were trying to figure out how do we get this amazing food that is being grown right there, in West Sacramento to the communities that need it the most. And at the same time, provide market access to our new farmers, which is, so we're doing the whole circle here. So this program is all around access and equity. It's mobile. It's literally a farmer's market on wheels. It goes directly, as our friends from the city of West Sac know, directly to housing locations in West Sac that need it the most, including senior housing. And during the pandemic, these were folks who literally were not able to leave their housing for anything from a health perspective. So having this pull up right in front of their locations every single week, we have literally had lines for up to an hour ahead of when the truck would pull up. They get to use their CalFresh EBT. There's another program called Market Match, which also is a 50% match that comes from the state of California and from the federal government to match their purchases of just fruits and veggies, which is a pretty incredible program. And obviously we also have we're very focused on culturally relevant crops. We're serving over 12 different languages, that are spoken. So everything from Afghani refugees to Southeast Asian refugees. I mean, so many. And so our farmers that we're working with are growing the crops that are culturally relevant to those folks. So we have multiple farms, but we'll highlight a couple of these. One is Riverfront, which is right next to the barn in West Sacramento. And it provides 40% of the mobile farmers market food for our West Sac mobile farmer market truck. Our truck in West Sacramento is supported. I do want to be very clear that this truck is also supported not just with private funding, but by the city of West Sacramento has made a dedicated 3-year contribution to this truck. And I've referred to that already. Woodland, City of Woodland and the County of Yolo submitted and have been so impressed with this program that they said, we want one too. So we have a second truck on its way, and that is going to be serving the City of Woodland as well as rural areas in Yolo County that are food deserts, Knights Landing and Esparto. And again, our inclusivity platform there. Amazing partnerships. This is just a few of them. There's a prescription box program that folks get prescriptions to eat healthy from Communicare Olay. They literally get to bring a coupon to the mobile farmers market truck as well as to other farmers markets in the county, and they get to cash that in for buying fresh fruits and vegetables. Again, this is all helping to support our local farmers and especially our beginning farmers. There's our sourcing. You want to talk about hyperlocal? These trucks absolutely are sourcing hyperlocal. So 41% of our truck produce is coming from 5 miles away. So that basically means West Sacramento and right around West Sacramento. And the remainder is in all of your counties. Top items sold, not a surprise there, except for okra. Okra might be a surprise for you, but again, these are folks that we're serving from many different countries around the world, and for them, this is an absolutely culturally relevant crop, and we literally could not keep okra on the shelves the first time we tried to sell it, and we very quickly told our farmers we need more okra, so that was exciting. And we have a community ambassador program, which is where we provide stipends to folks who from the community want to learn more about their food system and then help and support the work on the truck. This has been an incredible program. We're now in our 3rd year, and we're adding in, of course, our Woodland and rural Yolo County group. And so they are starting with their community food ambassador training, which is all not just for free, they're actually being paid for attending the training, and they are being paid for work on the truck, $20 an hour. So this is an incredible program, and we want to continue to expand it as well outside of Yolo County. So I think my time is up, 12:05, sorry. A few minutes late on that. Yes?
Community garden programs.
Mm-hmm. We don't do community gardens. Our focus has been on farms. It's okay.
Supervisor Villegas, community gardens in Yolo County?
Well, there are community gardens. It's just that Center for Land-Based Learning doesn't work in that arena.
School gardens.
School, oh yeah. There's a robust school yeah, go ahead.
It's okay, Bruce. Director, I will say that there, is it? Yeah, okay. So there are community gardens. High school has a garden program for the high school youth, and there are community gardens throughout West Sacramento where the city, contributes in access to irrigation. This is the other component, is that the city contributes access to irrigation resources to water the farms. And that I think was there before, but I think as a result of interest, Center for Land-Based Learning has kind of built upon that and just made it a little more, be professionalized in a way.
Well, the community gardens are great. I mean, and that's a whole nother element out there that many other organizations run. There's several here in Yolo County that do an incredible job. Yolo Farm to Fork is one that I can, off the top of my head, which works with many, many schools, elementary schools predominantly in the school garden area.
So I'm just going to jump in. Bruce already knows this, many of you may not. The city of Lincoln in Placer County has the largest high school farm west of the Mississippi.
You do.
Working directly with UC Davis.
Yeah, and I've been there, and it's really very inspirational. Thank you for making that investment.
Thank you.
I'm just curious what the average age is of those who go through your program.
Oh, great question. Yeah, it's really interesting. So we have folks as young as 23 and as old, since I'm this age, 55. Yeah, so it's a broad range, but the average is in the 30s. And a lot of folks are career changers. A lot of folks are career changers.
Excuse me.
Thank you. Yes, Director Thomas.
Mary, it's so good to see you. What you have accomplished is nothing short of incredible.
Hi, Wendy.
Hi, really good to see you. For those folks that want to take advantage of all your different programs, is there housing available for those that might want to come out of the region, or is this mainly a commute program?
This is a commute program.
Okay.
Thank you for asking. Our training program, in this year's class, the farthest commute is Half Moon Bay.
Really? Wow.
So when I say we're one of the few beginning farmer training programs in this state, I am not kidding. And so there's nowhere else for them to go. And this woman has waited for 4 years to apply until she could do it financially and everything else. We have one from Pittsburgh and one from Dublin. So yeah, and a lot from your counties as well. So it's absolutely a commuter. I wish but they're also working. I mean, these are folks that work full time wherever they are living. So the commute is an issue, and we have folks that show up late times because of transportation issues. Yeah, it's a need statewide for sure to have more investment in this kind of work. Yes.
So tell me the top 2 BHAGs that you have for the organization over the next 5 years.
BHAGs as in?
Big, hairy, audacious goals.
I thought that, I wanted to make sure. So one big, fat, hairy, audacious goal is around land access. I want to create an entire division around land access, and I want to have a staff that includes folks who have understanding, your point, what you talked about earlier, real estate, understanding lease agreements, a legal team that can literally help support these folks with their land access dreams. With Nelson, I did everything I possibly could. I brought lawyers to the table. I brought real estate agents to the table. And he had a real estate agent, but I brought others to the table, made sure that no one was getting taken advantage of. I want that as a team for us at Center for Land-Based Learning. So that's one. And then the other is, which I didn't mention, we are just launching a brand new program this fall called Ag Hire, which is a program for farm workers. Someone was asking me about Spanish. So this program has been identified as a need, not just in this region, but around the state, by farmers who want to upskill farm workers into higher level positions and technology, all of the pieces. And that is going to be starting this fall, and it is going to be it's going to be an apprenticeship, but not we have a 2-year apprenticeship for farm management. This is going to be more like a 6-month apprenticeship, and it will all be in Spanish. So that's brand new. So that's a big one. We have a lot to do still on that one, but we're very excited about it.
All right.
All right.
We're going to go ahead and wrap up comments, but can we give
Thanks,
a big
everyone.
hand to our presenters?
Appreciate being a part of this today, and that all of you have come to Yolo County and that you're doing the different tours over the different counties. It's really great.
Great. Well, I think, and I haven't talked to staff about this, but for directors, look for an email or maybe a doodle poll. I think because we've been, at least the last couple of meetings, we've been running late. we just have a lot of work this year. And so if we start like maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes earlier, I want to just get a sense from everybody if that's going to work for everyone. I'd rather, give you extra time back on the back end than run over and have people, have people leave. So look for that. And then before the May meeting, we wanted to, I hope you're all enjoying the reading that we provided on the color of law. We wanted to do a breakfast so we could have a deeper dive on the reading. And so look for that as well to see as we move forward. So just want to put that out there. And then is there anything else for the good of the order anyone wants to bring up? Yes, Director Jennings.
So I won't give you a report on the Race Equity and Inclusion Committee. I won't give you a report, but I will let you know that coming up very soon at one of our next meetings, we're going to take them to Gunther's in order to get the 50-50. And I want to let you know that if you're something you want to join in, get to know the members of that committee a little bit better, and if you've never had one of the 50-50 that's Gunther's, you're more than welcome to come and join us in doing so. So if you want more information, contact me and I'll give you all the details. But I want to make sure you come, get to know the members, and enjoy a 50-50 from Gunther's.
Everybody's in on that one. All right, so with that then, I will adjourn today's meeting. Thank you, everybody, and thank you to our host.